Okay, welcome. I am John Hall, ready to have some fun. Round two. I think I did okay by everybody joining me for the second one, full house. So thank you for coming back. And for the people that are new to this webinar, um, I'm John Hall, 35 years experience. Looking forward to sharing some of that experience with you this morning. So let's jump right in. So what we're going to do today, there's actually a little bonus at the end where what we're going to do is we're going to go through the PowerPoint for probably the first, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. And then I'm going to pull up a drawing that I'm using, I have used, and walk you through the guidelines that are used in a kitchen design and give you an example and a feel of see what to expect from a kitchen designer, number one. Number two, to see what guidelines that we talked about, how they will come into place. Naturally, you can always do your questions, type them in, and be happy to answer them as we go. Okay, so let's jump right in. Okay, in the webinar, we're going to learn how to start the design process, the gathering information, the learning of the triangle method, understanding mise en place, learn basic design guidelines. And then we're going to apply those basic guidelines into a design today. Okay, so all of you folks probably are going to be, there's actually one missing here that's becoming more popular, but we'll talk about that. The odds are you're going to have one of these kitchens. We're either going to have a single wall kitchen, which is a very small apartment size kitchen. Most of us has been there and done that in our growing years. We have a galley kitchen, which is going to be a much smaller kitchen, could be very effective, and but on the smaller side. And then we have an L-shaped. And I would say when I start and come visit you folks, the kitchen that I see the most of is going to be that U-shaped, that peninsula with an eating area next to it, or you know, um, just a wall that you want taken out, things like that. And then the L-shaped kitchen with the island. Where I said there's one missing, there's people now that are actually want to blow out walls. What's interesting is that I get more and more that having to call my engineer out to jobs, taking out walls and things like that. You folks out there, I stereotype a little bit, but you folks out there, you want to take as many walls out as you can and open the place up. And that's very popular today. So a lot of times people will do that and turn it into 2 island kitchens and things like that. The other thing is that two things about me that people don't know. Number one, I'm probably the shyest guy you'll ever meet. And number two, when I'm not working and not on my bike and hiking with my wife, I'm in the kitchen cooking. So I really love to cook. I always get my wife upset at me because Wednesday I'm always talking about what I'm going to make for Sunday's dinner. So, I'm very familiar with the kitchen, and not just from a designer input, but also from a person that's in the kitchen really using it. Okay. The other thing too that is when we talk about trends, and I don't know how many of you heard me talk at the show, but we talk, I have talked about trends and things like that. One of the trends is not, I don't know, maybe it should come off the trend list, but men are cooking in the kitchen in a great deal of the projects that I work on as much as the women. And so we have to understand about having 2 people working in the kitchen at the same time on a lot of these kitchens. So that'll come into play when we start talking about this and traffic flow and all that stuff. But the triangle method is where you add the 3-dimensional lines between the major work zones. The total should fall somewhere between 14 and 26 feet to be effective. So there you have your 3 major areas. You have your refrigeration, your cooking, and your sink. Now, one thing people don't understand, and that they need to, is that when we talk about that cooking, it's not necessarily the ovens, it's the cooktop. The ovens, you're not getting into the oven half as much as you're working in that zone where you're at the cooktop and things like that. The other thing, I'm very, very personally a very, very much an outdoorsy guy. I'm very much a person where when I come home, I want to be with my family. So you have to take that study into play when you start doing a kitchen. Now, what do I mean by that? Like this kitchen would absolutely not work for me because I don't want to come home after not seeing my wife or my daughter coming home from college or my kids coming over, whatever. I don't want to be looking up against a wall while I'm cooking. I'd rather have it open. Same thing with a sink. Now, I'm not saying take your sink and get it off that beautiful view of the backyard, but you know, do you want to take and put a vegetable sink in? Do you want to do all those things need to come into play? Now you may say, John, you know what? I see them all day. I just want to get my work done and get my cooking done and things like that. So I would rather prefer to have it, up against the wall and out of the way. So those are some of the things you need to, and that all comes into play with the work triangle and things like that as we move forward. Here was a study that was done. There's one line missing, but I love this slide. Let's call this Thanksgiving dinner. Actually, there's a couple lines missing on this, but the thicker the line, the more the space you go between. So the sink to the mixing should have a thick line there. Notice that some of the thin lines, remember I talked about that oven, it could be okay to be out of the way. Well, there it is down at the bottom. The one thing I would change on this slide, I would take that refrigerator, move it closer to the table. So that, because, growing up, personally, I had 10 brothers and sisters. We were always up and getting stuff. And then also raising my children. The minute you sit down, they ask for milk, or they ask for this, or they ask for that. So I would want the refrigerator closer to the table. It can still be in the triangle effectively, but have it more towards the table. One thing I do offer, just send it to a gentleman, and thank you, Dave, for sending that email, and I'll get back to you in a little bit. But I sent Dave out. He took my class 2 weeks ago, and he asked for this book, which I'm happy to send out to people. But we go through, when I start with people, we start gathering information, okay? And I put together a book where I'm sending it out, and everything that goes into a kitchen is what's there. And I'm going to use Dave as an example, is that he just sent an email back, and he said, I thought that was a great idea, Dave. He looked at the book and checked things off that he liked, and they did not do it together. And then I think her name is Janice, I'm not sure, but I think then Janice did it, and she checked things off. Now, he didn't respond in the email. Did they, are there things, this is where the marriage counselor comes in. Do they like the same things or not? That's where we have a little bit of a challenge sometimes. But that's where you start gathering the information, as they are doing with this guide. So if anybody wants to email me and say, John, I'd be interested in a guide, let me know. But this is where you really want to start gathering. Okay, the same thing is I've come up with a budget planner. Do you guys care what the kitchen cost? If anybody's interested in this stuff, just let me know. But this will help you track all your budget and things like that as it goes on. Now, these things are not sales features, by the way. In fact, I sell them at shows, things like that. Same thing with the webinars. I didn't charge for this webinar. I'm not charging for the book right now, things like that. So same thing. There's nothing here that's for monetary gain on my end. I just want to help people out. Okay, so mise en place. This is really a big one. The other thing that people don't know about me, or if you heard me talk at the shows, one of my idols, my biggest, in fact, my family's idol, my daughter home from college, everything, the only thing that we watch on TV, because I don't watch TV, is I will sit and I will binge watch Anthony Bourdain. I'm a huge Anthony Bourdain fan. And I just finished his book. And one of the things in his book he always constantly talked about was mise en place. When he grew up, okay, people that don't know who Anthony Bourdain is, a show where he committed suicide last year, but he had the most fascinating shows talking about culture and food and restaurant business. He was a chef and really, really very popular gentleman. But he always worked at the small restaurants in New York when he started out. Everything had to have a place. They were in shoe boxes. The same thing, even as important today as that triangle method, is the mise en place. Everything has a place. Like if you look at some of these slides, you look over on the left, you have a whole baking center, and then you could tuck that away. We talked about in the first webinar today, we talked about the width of drawers. Look at that drawer size now. We're not opening 2 or 3 cabinets to find something. That drawer is 4 feet wide. Everything has a spot right then and there. You could also see we talked about lighting these cabinets. Look how those cabinets are lit when you open them. And then we go to the right. Remember we talked about the lady I'm working on right now with that flip up command center? This is very similar to it. So what you have here is you have doors that open, and then you have a little desk unit that slides out. You could push that thing away, and then you could have your mail slots, you can have everything there. And then all of a sudden you shut the doors, you got your pantry. Everything is just nice, tidy, tucked into place, which is very important today. Okay, some guidelines. With refrigeration, okay, you should have a minimum of 15 inches to one side of the refrigerator. Exception is an island behind. You can see a lot of these examples on my website. Don't go to my website. Yeah, go to my website. I want everybody to go to my website. But go to my website. I've given this website, again, for educational purposes. Like, dig into the website and go to the blogs and go to the pictures and go to my old newsletters. They're all educational. But you'll see some pictures in there of, let's say, well, John didn't even take his own advice. He has a whole wall of pantry and refrigeration, and he has no countertop. The reason is because when you take and put all of your tall units separately in a kitchen, your kitchen visually shrinks in size. If you go and put everything together, it looks like a paneled wall, and your kitchen blows up in size. It gets bigger. So the reason I can do that is because there's an island right behind. All they have to do is turn. But let's say we don't have that island. We take that 15 inches and we put it right there. On this one, it happens to be to the left. Sink guidelines. And you think this stuff, John, come on, let's move on. This stuff's all elementary. Believe me, the stuff I get in and see, it's not elementary. There's been so many mistakes over the years. Okay, you should have a minimum of 18 inches to each side of the sink. Cooking guidelines, you want 15-inch minimum. So you have your handles that don't stick out into a walk space and you're off to the hospital with a child that has grease burns. Okay, now here's the big one. You should have a minimum of 36 inches around your island. I like 42 to 48. So you can see there's my island. This happens to be, you folks that were at the first webinar this morning, if you remember that one down in Lodi, here's the floor plan for that. So you can notice on the top, I have 40 inches, then to sit, I have 41. Also notice that the sink is here. See, you can see it cut off. There's the sink. Where's the cooktop? Over here. Where's the refrigerator? Over here. Why am I saying that? If somebody's standing at the cooktop, can somebody be at the sink? Yes. If somebody's at the cooktop, can you get stuff out of the refrigerator? Yes. If somebody's sitting over here, do they have to move when that refrigerator door's open? No. Little quick story on islands. About 10 years ago, I worked with a lady, and I go out there, the room was not big enough for an island. And she said to me, I want an island. I said, the space really doesn't warrant it. You're only going to have 30 inches. You're not going to be able to open your dishwasher hardly or stand at the sink with somebody can't get by. It really won't work. She said, I really want an island. She was probably in her mid 70s. And I said, okay, I've done my job. I didn't say it like that, but I've educated you on that. And she said, John, can I ask you one question? I said, yeah. And she said it nicely. She said, who's writing the check here? And I said, I guess you're getting your island, So anyways, we're about to start the job, and she called me and said, I forgot to mention one thing. I'm going to Florida while you do the work. My daughter's going to check the job, and so I'm driving over the 480 bridge. The cabinets are being installed, and the daughter calls me. And she said, John, I said, hello. She says, yeah, I'm so-and-so's daughter. She says, what the hell did you do to my mother's kitchen? You should know as a kitchen designer, you need 36 inches of space to put that island in. You've got 30. And I said, it was so easy to answer her. I said, call your mother, you just really, really need to be strict about this. Okay, so any questions on any of that? We're now going to turn our direction to a job. We have some fun within it. You're going to see my command center now and how it works. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a project that where I did design only, okay? And with this project, I want to show you just the photography of the kitchen before I started. And these are the pictures. So what I did, I went in, I took pictures, I went through the wish list. I'm going to read you the wish list in a minute, but I want to show you what I'm working with. So the kitchen's off to the right. Off to the left is going to be the dining room, and there's the front entrance to the house there. Here's a little peninsula going into this eating area. And you can see there's, again, for the people beginning of the first webinar, there's that red oak I was talking about. The soffits, how many people want to get rid of the soffits? I've really never met a soffit I couldn't take out. I mean, you may find some plumbing or electrical work or something up there. Or, you know, I can usually work around with a crown detail and things like that. Okay, now they have a beautiful backyard, and what they want to do is they want me to design, okay, actually I brought up the idea, maximize with glass, which you're going to see in the design, maximize with glass the backyard with windows in that. A view from the dining room. Okay. Now, do you notice that, wait a minute, John, you're a kitchen designer. What do you care about the front of the house? What do you care about the architecture? You bet I care, because I'm bringing these details into the kitchen. He just redid this. Look at this column, okay? Designer's delight. So I just watched that column detail and then carried it through into the kitchen. Same thing with this. Now, remember in the first webinar, we talked about door styles. So what do you think I'm going to do when I start talking to them about door styles? You know, you remember this stuff. Okay. So let me read you the wish list, and then we're going to jump into the design. Okay, let me just pull it up on my iPad here for a second. Okay, so I'm just going to read it down to you, and then we'll carry through. But again, I talk about everything that can go into a kitchen with somebody, and then that they yay it, they yay it, they nay it, they nay it. Okay, so they want a dishwasher. They want to put it on the left. They want a 48-inch built-in stainless refrigerator. They do not want a compactor. They want a 36-inch freestanding unit, commercial pro style cooking unit, like a Wolf or a Viking, with a wood hood above. And they want a speed oven. Hopefully you guys are going to follow through on these webinars, because I'm not going to dwell today. We have coming up next, I think, accessorizing, and I think I'll tell you at the end, appliances. What is a speed oven? I mean, you really, really want to put a speed oven in. Microwave, no. Ice maker, no. Wine refrigerator, no. Beverage center, no. Warming drawer, no. Built-in coffee. Like I said, we talk about appliances where I talk about all these things in detail. We have they want a farmhouse sink, that apron front sink that's really coming back and becoming popular. That really ebbs and flows over the years. They want a full tile backsplash. They want to take the cabinets to the ceiling. They want fixed eating area. It means something attached. And then the accessory, they want a command center that I showed in the mise en place. They want to be able to put keys, a dry erase so when the kids come home, a calendar, charging area, a dry erase board. One of the things that's really nice, give you a little trick, I've done it, I did it down in Medina. If you go with shaker style doors, I'm talking about on your wall cabinets, not this door here, but you could take this white, replace it with a white dry erase. So, mom, ran to soccer, be home for dinner. P.S. What's for dinner? Love you. You know, and you could have your dry erase right as an inset panel. Really, really nice. Place for cookbooks. And then they want a lazy Susan, a vegetable bin, cookie sheets, rollouts. They want to put some glass. They want a TV built in. They want a plate drawer. They like mainly drawers. They want utensil dividers, a recycling trash, and a spice door. Okay? So, interviewed, we have the photos. Now we can go to work. Okay, so you are now in my command center, by the way. This is where I do all my work. Okay, so this is what's referred to. Let me just give you, this is what to expect too as you go through. This is, as you can see here, this is a floor plan. Now, not a detailed floor plan, I was doing design only, but you can say, well, John, that looks pretty good and pretty working drawing to me. But this is the back of the house. There's the dining area over here. Okay. And what we did, they wanted to take this wall over here and we moved it back 2 feet to make this room bigger. Okay. So I did, and we're going to come back to this. I'll just give you the lay of the land. Now these numbers to what to expect when you have somebody do a design for you are very important. These are called elevation numbers. So like I'm saying to you, okay, how many drawers do I have on this window wall? John, you're kidding me. How am I supposed to know that? Well, number 5, number 5. Now you can count how many drawers you have. Okay. So those are called elevations. And then people also then have me do, we have I don't know if we have one on lighting in this web fall series or not, but lighting the kitchen. If I say I don't have this webinar series, you know, this lighting, if you get enough people email me and say, John, we'd really like the lighting, then I would add it back. I did it in the spring. I think it might or might not be in there. Okay. There's the island, which we'll talk about in detail. PS, by the way, what does that look like? The island column. Remember I tied in? Okay. Okay, so now let's go and study the detailing of it. Okay, so one of the things the first thing that I say as I go into a design, I go in there and I say, what can I do to create a focal point? What can I do to really enhance, and forget the function, because the function's going to come. I'm not going to do a kitchen that's not functional. And so where can I have a focal point? Well, one of them, how about that range? How about we create a focal point on that range wall? And then the other thing too is, remember we wanted to enlarge the windows on that back, so we bring the outdoors in. So those are going to be 2 big focal points. And then the third focal point is going to be the island. Now I'll tell you up front, the only thing I was not wild about that the client, again, I can only tell you the pros and the cons. You guys have to make the final decision. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to do it. If it does work, but I'm not wild about it, I'm going to tell you that. I don't know if anybody out there can see, but I can right away as a designer, because it's been about 6 months since I did this, right away what I see is, ooh, there's a red flag. See this? Sitting here with somebody cooking. Okay, but they definitely wanted it. And yeah, it's 43 inches. It's not the end of the world, but I wouldn't want somebody at my back while I'm cooking there. That would be the only thing in the design. So I told them, and then it's up to them to decide. So what we've done, they did not want anything on the island. They wanted it clear. Okay, that's good. The sink is centered under the window here. And then the cooking. Now, every design, we use that triangle as a guideline, but it might not work on every single design. I mean, we're close, but the refrigerator in this kitchen, 4 foot, had to go over here. You know, so it's going to be a little bit, that triangle is going to be a little bit heavy, but it still works. Okay, so now I'm going to refer to what I did with the elevations and that. Well, actually, let's look at the guidelines first. How did I do? Okay. Oh, the other thing too, they wanted that command center, so I put it right here, which is nice. They walk in, they have that command center right there for the keys, the charger, everything, cookbook storage, the dry erase, everything. So how do we do? There's that 43 inches. There's the 39 inches. We're at 36 to 48. So we have that there. So we're good. We're good with all of that. Okay, so now let's go and talk about, let's walk through the design with the elevations. Okay, now, so here's our sink. When you put a farmhouse sink in, I tend to dress, you're seeing also, I'm toggling between top and bottom, okay? And I'm going to show you the reason why here. And then we'll just use one of them. I'll just use the top one. But they wanted a place. They did not want an appliance garage, but they wanted a little niche, a little home for their small appliances, like their toaster and their, could have been a mixer or whatever. They did not want a door put on it though. Okay, so they just wanted a home. Personally, me, I wouldn't put a door on either, because these appliances today, like the KitchenAids and the Krups and all these small appliances are very decorative. You know, they add color, they add things like that. So, but that's your guys' call. And then the other thing too is that the odds are, if you use this stuff, it's always going to, the door's always going to be open anyways. So what happens here is, if you notice the difference, do you take, by enlarging the window, okay, I sacrifice some wall cabinet space. So what we can do is we can take and have our wall cabinet line right here, which will give us a little more counter space. This counter space here is useless. I mean, what are you ever going to use that for? That usually becomes what I refer to as a claptrap area. So what my recommendation was, and what they did was, look at this one. We took these two cabinets down to the counter. So I made up a whole good wall cabinet worth of space with the window and gained the space there. The other thing that's very popular in designs today, which I love, it really helps me when people say they want some glass. It doesn't have to be a full glass cabinet. You'll see a lot of this in designs around the country and that. Notice there that I did just the glass. I called these split panels. Remember in the first class, we talked today about the stock versus semi-custom versus a custom. Here's a classic example of you're not getting this in stock, but you're able to split the panel of this door and put glass in the top section. Okay, and then we can light it. I one time in Bay Village, I'll never forget this, again, being so family oriented. This is one of the nicest things that I've ever done in a design. They had 4 kids. They did this, put 4 glass up. They took the kids to a pottery place, and each of the kids made a nice piece of art pottery for the parents. And they put, each child put their pottery in those 4 glass cabinets. Really, really cute. So that you can bring a lot of personal touch into that. So that's what's called a split panel, if you're interested in any glass without sacrificing the whole thing. Okay, so the other thing too, notice what I did here. John, why would you put a drawer? If you really wanted to maximize it completely, why do you have a drawer there? Well, you ever want to put a dish there and open this cabinet? You're going to be able to? No way. There's always going to be something there, and you're going to have to move it every single time. That's why I put a drawer there. And isn't it nice to always have a junk drawer in a kitchen? You know, from everything from little tools to, you know, maybe items for the dog, anything, stamps, whatever. Okay, so that's that. So there's what I did there. Cabinets went to the ceiling. Now, if you notice here, and I'll go over what the accessories I put where. There's my first large stack of drawers. Oh, guess what? Look what I did. One thing I hate to do is have long runs without any break of dimension. They're boring. Remember that column on the stairs? There it is. Remember that column on the stairs? There it is. Let's go to the floor plan. Look what I did. I bumped, see the window? I framed that window out and bumped this section forward by 3 inches. So it looks like a whole separate entity, and I broke that boring linear dimension. These are the little things. People come to me all the time. There's something about your kitchens, I can't pinpoint it, you know? There's a stack of 4 drawers. I gave a deep drawer here, sink towels, things like that. There's my sink, that farmhouse sink. There's my recycling trash. Okay. I listen to clients when they talk. If you remember, the first thing I said was, she said she wants the dishwasher on the left. Okay. And again, I'll go through all the details. Built the TV in. Now, again, this is what we can do with custom cabinetry. If you go back to that Hudson kitchen, that award-winning kitchen, and get on my website and look at the TV, I went to Kevin at Lowe's here in Chagrin Falls and got a $150 TV. He spent an extra 30, 40, 50 bucks and got me a bracket. I went and put this TV into this opening. I left a ½ inch all the way around. The TV has this opening here has a false back, set back about 5 inches. That TV front is flush with the frame of the cabinet. When you pull that TV forward and swivel it, you can swivel it if she's doing dishes or whatever. So that TV looks completely built in, really a nice look. How many of you out there have a TV? And now, most people today are really not even putting TVs in. I would say we're down to about maybe 30, 40%. But let's say you do have that TV. Is it just sticking on the counter in the corner with the wires and everything? I mean, this really makes a nice look to it. Okay, so that's that. Now, we're going to turn the corner, but I want to go to the floor plan before we turn the corner. Here's my cooking, okay? So we're going to come to this corner. Let's go to the accessories in that front, first of all, okay? There's the plate drawer. So something comes out of the dishwasher. There's a drawer now for plates. Forget it. I put it into 90% of my kitchens. People love it. They don't have to stack their plates up in the wall cabinets anymore. They have a nice home in a nice drawer. Cutlery divider for the the silverware. There's my recycling trash. This is a favorite cabinet of mine right here now before we get to this Susan. The reason I wanted to go to this elevation here first is, okay, here's our range. All the large pots and pans are now right here. So between the Lazy Susan, there's my Lazy Susan, and this base cabinet with rollouts, I now have a large, deep 2-drawer cabinet. Okay, here's a kicker. You go and say to me, John, I want to work with you on either the semi-custom or the custom project. I'm going to tell you to go home and measure your tallest pot. Because guess what? I can make that drawer any size I want. Murphy's Law, I'm a huge believer of Murphy's Law. If I didn't ask you that question and the cabinets go in and you go to put that pot in there, what's the odds it's going to miss by 1/4 to 1/2 inch? Okay, that's the kind of stuff that we can do. Okay, so now let's go turn the corner. Look, I wanted to create a focal point. So there's a beautiful wood hood. There's my range. That gives me the drawer stacks or knife drawers, whatever. And there's the wall cabinetry. So that creates a nice, that wall will create a nice focal point. If we wanted to, we could put a mural there. We could do a lot of interesting things with it. Okay. And again, let's see if we put any accessories there for them. Okay, here's an important one, vegetables. I love this accessory also. So what we did was we put utensil dividers in there, but right here, I put a vegetable bin. Vegetable bin has 3 slide-out drawers. And if you take the accessorizing in 2 weeks, you're gonna see all of the stuff. That would be a great, if you guys are doing kitchens out there, and most of you probably are, I don't know how many people are, you know, for other reasons, but if you're doing the kitchen, that webinar, that webinar in 2 weeks is so critical with accessorizing and the appliances. But the vegetable bin here with the plastic pull-out trays for your potatoes, your onions, things like that. You can take the plastic out and scrub it then and things like that. So that's where we put that. Okay, now let's go to the island. Okay, so what they wanted was they wanted an oven with a speed oven. So there's the speed oven right there. Now, in the beginning of class, I said, well, why I would put a speed oven in first thing no matter what. How about a baked potato in 8 minutes, restaurant quality. How about chicken breast and casseroles and everything at 1/3 to 1/4 of the cooking time? It replaces the microwave. It works on 3 powers, you know. So that'll be talked about in 2 weeks in detail. This is a nice cabinet here for all the trays. We put all the trays and things like that in there. Okay. So that was our island. Now, one of the things that with cabinetry, when you go look at cabinet, this will add, and you know, when people say to me, what does a kitchen cost? You know, and I say, well, what does a car cost? So it's the same thing. Like you could put beautiful decorative side panels, like you notice here, on the sides of the islands. I put all decorative side panels. Okay, over here, decorative side panels to the side of the command center. Adds $1,000 to $2,000 to the job, but it really, really enhances a kitchen. If you're going transitional or modern, you don't necessarily want to do that. If you're going traditional, it's really a nice touch, you know, so. And then we have the seating that we talked about on the 4 sides of the island and things like that, okay? Over here was the 48-inch refrigerator with the pantry with the rollouts. Here's my command center. So now I'm on the walking into the room, okay? Cabinet open, closed all my cookbooks, all my storage here, my drawer for all my stuff, my place to hang my keys. This is a little charging section, has an outlet behind it. I can put all my iPhones and just sit on it pulls out forward to undo them and everything, which is really nice. So, okay. And then for another webinar, we have all the lighting. Anybody want to type any questions? So that's basically it on the layout and the guidelines. Again, I can be reached at 216-870-2644. If anybody wants to reach me, I can help with design. If you need help with your project, whatever. I will tell you guys that one of the things that you want to do, I mentioned the first time, is if you're looking to do a project next year, you really want to jump on it. You know, I know some trades out there that are scheduling 2 years out right now. And the other thing is getting product, appliances, things like that. There's going to start to be a real lag on that kind of stuff. So thank you for taking the webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the morning for the double header people. And you can get out, enjoy the rest of the day, get the leaves raked. And I will be right back here in this seat 2 weeks from today. If anybody wants to email me with questions, go ahead or contact me. And we'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Thank you. Bye-bye.